All right. I got your follow-up information. So how are you doing? Are you in a
Yeah, pretty good.
what state are you in? Are you good?
I'm good. Yeah, pretty good. Everything is good. Thanks for asking.
All right. So I got the forms. What's important to do is to kind of review the emails that you sent me. I know you made a little tracker, and then I have your lab.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
you have a few questions. So let me pull up the document. So that'll help us go through everything. Um, Overall, though, it seems like you're doing you're having some improvements. You're not all the way there, but you're having some improvements, correct?
yeah. I think I'm 50-50 now, which is great from 2080.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first goals was to have more good days and bad days as an
That's
essential.
correct.
So
Yeah.
you say 50-50, what does that mean?
So as in, it's so funny. I'm on a sine wave schedule. I'm like 2 weeks of being good, and then 2 weeks of not being good. At
Oh,
least the past couple of months, it's predictable, and it's like I can predict that in next couple of days I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be back to normal.
well, that's really important. And before, just remind me, it was like 3 weeks, or what was it? 4 weeks,
Yeah,
4 weeks.
around 3 weeks, 1 weeks. So it wasn't really that predictable. But maybe I wasn't gathering enough information. Maybe it was always something like this. But at least looking at the tracker, I can see there is a really obvious pattern there.
Yeah.
Around 14 to 16 days each pattern.
Okay. And do you notice that helps you more with your work projects and everything, just to have those windows? Because I know like you were always like, oh, I have this deadline. I just got to have that good week to finish it. And then you're hoping to catch
Yeah.
before
Yeah,
that.
it does. But at the same time, I realized that because last time we talked, I mentioned that maybe if I focus really, really hard on something, I can get out of that.
Yeah.
At least in one instance, it was almost impossible for me. I
Okay.
tried everything, doing for a hike, doing any sort of things I could, but it just wasn't working.
Right.
But generally speaking, yes, having that rhythm is definitely helpful.
Yeah. Sally, there's like two things to your case. One of them is to have more good days and bad days. The other one is when you get into your, phases where you can't function,
Yep.
is to get out of them. So the last time you tried everything to get out of it and it wasn't successful, right?
Just one of the instances I had like a note around it. Well, I was because every time it happens that I'm actually going down, I can feel it. Like
Yeah.
I'm a bit tired. I get a little bit brain fog. I can feel that I'm getting there. So
Yeah.
I just this time I try to get out of it by doing anything I could, doing a hike, walking around the block, doing something fun, going to a movie. But in that specific instance, it didn't work. But
Okay.
I don't know exactly why it didn't work.
Okay. Let me share the screen with you here.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our treatment plan, if you remember.
Mhm.
So let's go through each one of these strategies, see what's working for you, what isn't working for you, what things we need to modify and change, and so forth. So the other complaint you had was the bloating and digestive issues. That's really, I think, one of the key concerns you had. That's somewhat improved too, right?
It has, and interestingly, I can't really say that I get bloated that often these days.
Right.
I don't know if I'm because I'm on those like HPLR and other supplements,
Right.
but I don't really get like everyone has a little bit of bloating, like having a little bit of gas is normal, but I'm not really discomfort. I don't have really any discomfort.
Right. And your chief complaint was initially number one chief complaint was gastrointestinal issues. And I'm like, hey, I think this is a brain gut axis issue. Let's
Yeah.
at the very least work on your brain and see what happens to your gut. So you're seeing those connections as you're having more good days with your brain function, that your gut function is better, or do you just think it's a supplements?
I'm not sure, but it's definitely improved. Like from really, I'm still having FODMAP non-friendly stuff, but even with those, I'm not getting any bloating. So I feel like having that diversity is actually helping me more
Okay.
now, considering that I'm not getting bloated.
Yeah.
Also, the like it's getting like has a shape now. I don't know if it's because of again the supplements or because of having good days versus bad days, but I've improved in that area.
Okay. What about your overall fatigue in general, and then your fatigue on bad days versus good days? How's that?
On a couple of items that I haven't mentioned because I forgot, like good days and bad days. In good days, I don't really have any fatigues.
Okay.
One thing that happened during good days is I cannot sleep properly. That's strange. Like I can only get like 4 hours of sleep, and for the rest of the day, I just want to work. So for example, I'm in a relatively good day now, but last night I woke up at 3 a.m. and I couldn't sleep.
Okay, so this brings
That's the other way around with bad days. Like with bad days, even if I wake up at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., I'm still tired. And I can sleep quite easily during bad days.
Okay, let's talk about some of the strategies here. So
Mhm.
determine if adding a meal before bedtime increases ability to sleep tonight. So did you try that?
I did. Like
Waking
last
up,
night,
waking up.
I added a meal. I added a meal like right before I sleep, for example, like past 2 nights, and I was still waking up at 3 a.m.
Okay. And then the other thing was add exogenous ketones before bedtime to see if it helps you sleep. Did you try that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't work?
It didn't.
Didn't work.
It's
And how
it's
much?
very unpredictable. Again, really depends on what state I'm in, up or down.
Ali, how much ketones did you try?
Uh, just one tablespoon.
Oh, okay. So let's have you try with more.
Okay.
You can go up to like 1 tablespoon. How many milligrams?
It's around 10.
10? Sound right? Okay. Well, you can go up to like it's probably not right, but you can probably go up to 2, 3, 4 tablespoons.
Okay.
You're not going to overdose on ketones. Okay.
Okay.
So you may just not be getting enough because if you were like waking up in the middle of the night, it's very likely that you're getting into this nocturnal hypoglycemia pattern. You just need some fuel for your brain.
Got
Okay.
it. Is it normal that when I wake up, I don't feel hungry at all? I'm
No,
not hungry.
that's fine. It's still your brain using fuel. We just want to make sure that actually
Ah,
most people that wake up with nocturnal hypoglycemia, they don't feel hungry at all because their stress hormones are released, their appetite suppressed.
yeah,
They just feel like wired a little bit or something. Do you
got
get
it.
any of those sensations or not?
I feel wired for sure.
Yeah. So if you feel wired, that means your epinephrine, norepinephrine got released. And the only reason your epinephrine, norepinephrine is going to release at nighttime is if you don't have enough fuel. If you don't have enough glucose for your brain, ketones for your body has to break down your proteins.
Okay.
Because it's going to first use up all your sugar the first few hours of sleep. And then what's left is if you don't have any reserves, like glycogen buildup from your diet from the day before, or if your brain is just burning through your glucose and sugar quickly because you're like in a mania phase or your brain's just very, very active, right?
Yeah.
You're going to basically get your blood sugar levels to drop.
Yeah.
And we want you to use ketones because it's an immediate fuel source for your brain. But right before bedtime, you just may not be getting enough. So when you don't have enough fuel, your body will release epinephrine, norepinephrine.
Okay.
That'll make you feel wired, but it also will wake you up.
Got it.
So especially if you feel wired, it's most likely if your fuel levels are dropping. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, also,
and I don't have to be on keto in order to benefit from exogenous ketones.
You don't have to be on keto.
No.
And the other thing is your last meal. What time is your last meal?
I usually have around 8, 9 p.m., but I have last meal before bed around 10 p.m.
Okay, last meal's around 10 p.m. Okay, that's pretty good. And what's your last?
Just have a small, like that's like a snack before sleep.
What are you getting for your last meal?
A couple of walnuts.
You call it walnuts a meal. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. What about your actual meal? Not a snack. We'll just call it.
It's salad, maybe a piece of a steak.
Okay.
Yeah, some herbs.
No sugar, no sweet.
I have rice, maybe a quarter cup of rice.
Okay.
Even less than that. A very small amount of rice.
Very small amount of carbohydrates.
Very small amount.
That shouldn't be an issue then. You just may need to increase your ketone levels before you go. Okay. The other thing you can do is also how many walnuts are you having at 10 o'clock?
Maybe 2 walnuts.
Maybe you can increase that to 6.
Okay. I'll give it a try. Yeah.
We're not worried about you gaining weight. You're maybe even, you're fine. So
is there any reason, because diet is the same, but when I'm not feeling okay, I just sleep through the night like a baby.
Yeah, I mean, there's points where your brain is just completely exhausted, fatigued, and but the times where you're still waking up is this clue to us. You're still having these stress response releases, and that's what it is. It's a physiological stress response. Every time you have a physiological stress response, it's going to disrupt your neurotransmitters, it's going to disrupt your immune system. It's going to be one of the things that gets in the way. How many times a week are you having these patterns where you wake up in the middle of the night?
It's really aligned with my good and bad. So 14 days of bad, I'm totally fine. 14 days of good, maybe 10 days of it.
Okay,
So
so that's the key thing.
20%, 25% of the time.
So when you're bad and you're just like exhausted and fatigued by the end of the day, you just don't want to get out of bed and function. That's not so relevant because you're already, your brain's already done. The days where you're good, you're still having 10 out of the 14 days having these patterns. You're still having a stress response. So this alone, if we can figure this out, that may extend your good days to more than 14 days. Like if you can, I mean, it's a big deal. Like this is really, really, really critical.
Okay. I thought it's not that big a deal because I usually try to get like half an hour of nap during the day, but I will look into it.
Napping is fine. If your brain wants you to nap, take a nap. Definitely do not push your brain when it's like done. Like it'll make things worse. Okay. So you definitely want to give your system those breaks, like your body's telling you to. Okay, listen, you have to figure this out. You have to figure out your fat intake, your protein intake before meals. The 2 walnuts is not enough. You have to fill out your ketones. You cannot wake up in the middle of the night because it's going to completely disrupt your ability to maintain your good days. It's going to put you in a physiological stress response. It's going to cause some problems. Okay, so this is I will look into essential. Like put a star, circle it, put another star, put arrows on it. Like this is the most important thing right now. Okay. All right. So then you added some enzymes in, and that seems to be helping you, right? Helping you. It does. In the times you don't take enzymes, do you notice a difference?
I haven't.
Okay.
No, I don't think I'm noticing any difference. I'm only taking 2 per meal. So I don't know if that's the right dosage for me or should increase that, but I don't really feel any difference taking or not taking it.
Okay, if your bloating is under control, that's fine. It's just helping digestion overall. And you have some underlying autoimmunity and other things, and that you just want to keep in check and just have healthy immune functions. Break down your proteins. It's always a good idea. Okay, now when you're in your good phase, the mania, like when you're ready to focus, and are you noticing you're not as aggressive, or is the symptom still pretty? Let's just use the word asshole. Are you as much assholeness?
No. I think we discussed about this. I'm not really aggressive at all, whether or not I'm good or bad.
But just like cocky and
when I'm good, I am not patient. I want things to be done quickly.
Okay.
When I'm bad, I'm a teddy bear.
Yeah.
I'm good. But when I'm really good, I don't have patience for slowness. Everything should be 110% quick.
Is that changing, or is that still pretty
No, that's still the same.
Same intensity.
Same intensity, yeah.
And then what about with your phases of low, where you like to have depression and can't function and can't do things? Is that changing? Are those I know that the good and bad days overall is the length is different, but what about the intensity during those stages? Let's say in your depressed state.
Yeah, they are decreasing. They're decreasing to the point that I had to add a column to the table called sign of depression, because I couldn't really call it depressed, but I was just saying this might be a sign of depression, yes or no. So yeah, they are decreasing.
So you're depressive in your periods of bad time. The depression is not as bad.
Definitely decreased, because when we last met in the 3 or 4 weeks after that, I was really down to the point that you had to remind me, hey, you need to send me these updates, these weekly updates. But after that, after the first 3 to 4 weeks, I'm definitely can't keep track of everything. So it's not, it's less of a depression thing, more of, okay, I'm seeing signs of depression. I need to do something about it.
Okay. So like on communication, when you kind of jot things down so we can look at everything, we do these follow-ups and see how things are.
Yeah.
If you can not only let me know good days versus bad days, but you can let me know how bad your depressive symptoms are in your depression phase.
Yep.
In your mania phase, like when you're good days, like when you're highly functional, we want to see if you're still like agitated as easily. If you're like, picture someone working with you, would they be happy to work with you, or would you just be too much for them, or do you need to be left alone in a room to get your stuff done? You know what I mean?
Sure, I will keep track of it. But overall speaking, and Ozzy is listening in the background, and she's saying, no, I'm not agitated.
Okay.
But I get agitated if people are slow, if they're not.
Yeah.
If they're like, if I think that somebody is slow and wasting my time because I know that I have stuff to do during that 10, 14 days that I'm up.
Okay. All right. See how those are. Okay, so you're taking that glutathione, liposomal glutathione.
And it's helping as well. Like I've had hikes that were 3 to 4 hours, and taking them, I was only tired maybe a day or two after the workout compared to a week of being tired and fatigued. So it's helping.
It's helping. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was really critical for your plan to include really maintaining your neurochemical activity throughout the day, which works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which when we went through everything was like reading in the morning, yoga at 4, project planning in the evening time. Are you consistent with this?
Yeah, I'm maintaining it, especially when I'm in my good days. When I get into the bad days, it's really difficult. That's when I mentioned at the beginning. I try to get out of it. I try to keep my routine. But when I get there, it's all broken to the point that I even skip taking supplements. But thanks God, it's less and less these days.
Okay.
So it's work in progress. I'm doing it, but it's work in progress.
Okay. And then nutraceuticals, dopamine, serotonin, catechostem. You're okay with all these?
I'm okay, but only had to take it 2 or 3 times. One time it worked like magic, half an hour, 45 minutes after I took the supplements. The other 1 or 2 couldn't feel any difference.
Okay. Yeah. And you were taking this dosage?
First time it was 222. No, I think I was taking 222.
Okay, so I
was afraid taking 444. Maybe was afraid maybe I get jittery or something like that.
Okay, well, the one that could cause you to be jittery would be the catechostem, because that has some like stimulant type botanicals and stuff in there. But the other ones were not going to cause you to technically, but still, you can go like 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4. You just may not be getting enough activity for what you need. Okay, so when you get it, when you're in these times where you want to try to do this again, that's important.
Correct. Yeah, I call this emergency pack, and I only use it when I absolutely have to.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like when you're in your down phase, depression phase, you could also bump up your trisomal glutathione.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so let's make sure you add that too. So you definitely want to, when you're, when you get triggered, sometimes being triggered is just your immune system being inflamed, and that brain inflammation just shuts down your brain function. That's depressive state. So when you're in a depressive state, I mean, taking glutathione can be very, very helpful. Okay.
Right.
And even taking ketones at nighttime could be helpful, because new research keeps showing ketones are anti-inflammatory for the brain.
Okay.
Okay. So in your down phases, definitely, think about those too.
Sure.
And physical and cognitive activities, walking, hiking, driving, rocking back and forth in a chair, right? You're doing those?
Yeah. I didn't do the rocking back and forth in a rocking chair because I don't have a rocking chair, but walking, hiking, and driving definitely helps. And I'll do it as much as I can.
Okay. The reason I wanted you back and forth in the rocking chair just because we found some otolithic issues we did an exam with you. So
got it. I will get a rocking chair.
Okay. And then you're sending me the emails, which are great. All right. So those are pretty good. Let me go back to this form here. All right. So we talked about this. You said you're 50% still work in progress. Not 100% on FODMAP diet, but bloat overall is improved. That's fine. You don't have, as long as your bloating is reduced, you can follow whatever degree of restrictions you need for the FODMAP diet.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't really think you have full-blown small intestinal bacterial overgrowth as a primary issue. I think it's your brain gut access disruption and whatever it takes for you to have your bloating resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have new perfect no symptoms that are new? Working on frontal lobe related lack of motivation, signs of depression, and then what do you hope to accomplish? Instructions for your frontal lobe. So when you look at your frontal lobe, let me show you something. So one of the most important things with your frontal lobe is whatever. There's a rule in neurology rehabilitation. Whatever you can't do is what you want to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, so like if someone was out of shape, if they couldn't do a squat, the only way they're going to get better is by doing squats, right? Mm-hmm. If someone can't do a push-up, the only way they're going to get better is doing push-ups, right? Mm-hmm. Even though it's hard and it's no fun, and they're not good at it. So when you look at frontal lobe and you look at the ones you really have symptoms, issues with, for example, difficulty initiating and finishing tasks. You pushing yourself to initiate and finish tasks, as any task, simple as it may be, is going to stimulate your frontal lobe. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a lot of your frontal lobe training is going to be really cognitive. Okay. So Now, maybe the tasks may be too difficult for you at times. So you have to make tasks that are doable. The task that's doable may be like you can't go for a drive, but as hard as it may be, you can get up and walk around, your room for a second, then come back down. So, so as you do that, let's say you were in a depressed state and you just didn't want to do anything, right? Okay, bump up your ketones, even during the day, like exogenous ketones, and especially at nighttime. Take some glutathione, take the neurotransmitter stuff, increase that. But then, even if you're not able to initiate, try to find something you can initiate. Okay, so maybe it's hard for you to go for a drive or go for a hike or do something like that. But maybe you can like get out of bed and just walk around in the room for 3 times.
Yep.
The fact of you walking up in the room, walking 3 times, actually turns on your neurochemistry. It actually has a physiological effect of the pathways that are not working. Does that make sense? And then maybe you then like, okay, that sucked. That was difficult, but I did it. Right? As simple as that task may be, just getting up and walking around your room or something like that. Okay. This is an example. Then, you might notice a few minutes later, you could maybe walk outside. Yeah. And that's your next goal. But the way you're activating and rehabilitating your frontal lobe is you're just pushing yourself by these task-driven related issues. Okay. Because when we did an exam with you, you didn't have like lots of motor impairments or difficulties with your arms and limbs and things like that would do frontal lobes or severe eye movement issues. It's really your prefrontal area, your executive function area. So also when you activate these initiating and finishing tasks patterns, there's a pathway called the ventral ascending dopaminergic system that is what's involved with you to do that. Those connections and pathways develop so you get plasticity when you push yourself. So think of your initiating tasks as like just doing a push-up. It's a mental push-up. So you have to constantly push yourself to do it. Now, on your good days, it's like your brain's like overfiring and all these things are good. So it's really, really easy. Okay. It'll be more challenging when these pathways are not functioning well and then you activate them. Okay. So when you're in your depressed states, you actually have the really strong potential to build some connectivity and plasticity of things. Okay, because when you're in your mania states, like you're hyper functioning and things, everything's easy, right? Because your neurochemistry is higher functioning at that point. Okay, so this is going to be one of the most important things to do for your frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is going to be trying to find simple tasks you can do that are mentally challenging for you, but enough that you can do them. Listen, it could even be like, I'm going to move from this side of the bed to the other side of the bed. I don't know how down you get. Okay. Yeah. What do you think would be some like realistic tasks you could do when you're in a down phase that will require you to initiate, and it's going to be hard to initiate?
I can go out for a drive. I can go to a coffee shop.
You can do that?
You usually can. I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, so you definitely want to. That's how you rebuild your frontal lobe. You're going to have to rebuild your frontal lobe, ventral ascending dopaminergic reward activating system. And that's going to be when you're pushing yourself in these phases. Okay. It'd be like if you had sprained your ankle and now you haven't used it for a while, and then you don't ever use it, you're never going to have your ankle come back.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right. So you have to activate these things. So that's the key thing. So let's go back to things you want to accomplish. So when it comes to like anything for your frontal, yeah, it's initiation. It's pushing yourself, especially in your depressed states, to get those pathways to develop plasticity and connectivity. Okay. For the frontal. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? My wife traces H. pylori in her latest GI. Had traces of H. pylori. Tested myself, found traces of this. Yeah, I saw your GI panel. I can go over that with you. I didn't see any major concerns there. Okay.
Sure.
Ended up reinfection after a protocol. So you ended up just taking supplements for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, no problem. All right. Then this is your chart. And yeah, so you're just now. Can you just give me like a verbal summary of this?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, this is really good. This is really good, but it makes more sense to you than to me. I mean, obviously, it's very clear. Yes, no.
Yeah. So if you take a look at the last, the one before the last column, the one with green and yellow. So green is good overall. So that I call it my up days. Yellow is not good. And I haven't put anything in between. It's just, okay, this is good because I can achieve what I want to achieve. And during the day, I'm good. Yellow is, okay, I'm not good. Either I'm tired, sign of depression,
Let's see.
That's, I think, the last column you want to take a look at, and everyone, that's where I can see a pattern, like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, something like that. And it used to be, again, it used to be 20, 30%
Yeah. Okay.
on, 70, 80% off.
Okay. I think you're going to make a huge gain in your physiology and your function in your good days when you get your blood sugar stable.
Okay.
You're going to make a huge gain in your bad days when you can keep pushing your initiation and drive.
Okay.
Because you're trying to change your brain. You're trying to get your brain to be more adaptive, more resilient to these patterns, right?
Yeah.
There's a part of this which is genetic. There's a part of this where, you're vulnerable to inflammation and these phases of neurochemistry being off, like you have an exaggerated response to them. But if you can build your resiliency and build your connectivity in these pathways, then hopefully you can be, more functional in both your phases and then your phases are more manageable, and your overall function, everything improves. Okay. Now, the other thing you can do is you can do tongue twisters. By the way, when you have a hard time in your low phase and like you can't function well, you can just get a book of tongue twisters, or you can go online, find tongue twisters and just do them. Because one of the areas that shuts down with you is your motor speech area. So Broca's areas, motor speech areas on that left side of the frontal cortex. And, if these symptoms are accurate, where there are 3s in your depression states, then you want to activate those pathways. Okay. So just do them out loud, and just try to do them as efficiently as you can. You're getting connectivity, plasticity, you're turning on the neurochemicals in this area. Okay. So almost think of it like your down phases as like you have a injury to the brain, and you're trying to activate the areas that are injured. And when you activate areas that are injured in a way that's not overwhelming, you actually turn down inflammation there. You activate microglia. You turn on neurochemicals there. It's like turning on your brain's own pharmacy for all the things you need. So you want to be specific to areas. Now, again, it's not going to be easy, but once you do make the task easy enough, then you can make it more difficult and more difficult as your brain chemistry changes. Okay. And it can change within the same hour.
Yeah.
Like getting out of the bed and getting dry was extremely difficult, and then you pulled it off, and now something else that was daunting earlier today may not be, and now you do the next thing or whatever, right? Worst thing you can do is just sit in bed. It's like a person with an ankle sprain, just looking at their ankle and never rehabilitating it or something. Okay. The rest of this looks good. I think those are the main things that was a problem. Early startle, sensitive to bright lights. Is that in your mania phase or highly functional stage or what?
No, these are on my non-functioning days.
Non-functioning days. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll just keep monitoring those. There's nothing specific to do. Here you can see your GI symptoms. All your GI symptoms are dramatically improved. So that's a good sign. And at this point right now, are you satisfied with your gut function the way it is? What would you like to see change with it?
No, I think it's good, and it's getting better. If it keeps this upward trend of getting better, I'm really good.
Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah.
I think as you continue to improve your brain function, and your brain gut axis function, you see some. Okay, this allows you to. I want to make sure you didn't have any underlying thyroid issues, because it's so critical. If it's there, it can throw things off. So your thyroid panel's fine. Your TSH is normal. And then I look at these numbers, T4, T3, not just in the lab range, but more functional. Like, for example, T3, the lab range is 71 to 180. I just want to make sure it's above 100. I want to make sure, T4 free is above 1. So everything is actually within functional ranges, normal ranges, everything's fine. Okay. Looked at reverse T3. That's this, like if you're metabolizing thyroid hormones abnormally, see if that's a problem. So that's fine. So this rules out hypothyroidism, pituitary issues, conversion issues, all those things. They're fine. And then this problem, your H. pylori stool antigen test here was negative, which is good. It's 98% sensitive and sensitive specifics. It's a very accurate test. Okay. And then here I just went through and wanted to make sure you didn't have any underlying pathophysiological issues, functional or outside of the lab range, and you're fine with everything. Your blood sugar is fine, your glucose is fine, your kidney function is fine, your liver function is fine. Your lipid panel like 209, no big deal. total cholesterol.
Mhm.
Overall, when you look at your LDL, HDL risk ratios, there's no increased risk of anything. Total cholesterol HDL ratios, no increased risk. So even though your total cholesterol is a little high, when you actually look at the ratios and risks of the cholesterol model, you don't have any problems there. Okay. And your C-reactive protein, which is the marker for inflammation, is fine. Homocysteine is really important for bipolar disorder because you need to have B12 and folate. And if those levels get low, these levels get high. You're at 7, which is fine. Perfect. Okay. Your T3 uptake was a little bit low, and this is not actually a thyroid hormone. It's just an indirect calculation of what's called thyroid binding globulin. It's a protein that transports T4, but it's just 1 point of the range. There's nothing here to worry about. Okay. Vitamin D levels are very good. Lots of studies linking bipolar and depression symptoms and anxiety to vitamin D deficiency. Your levels are good. Anything about 50 is pretty good range. Okay. No signs for clotting issues. Fibrinogen is a major risk factor for blood clots. Okay. And then your white blood cells and red blood cells are good. Your immune, these are all the different types of red blood cells. So you have no patterns of anemia. Your white blood cells are healthy. You have no patterns of like any underlying infection or any kind of immune dysfunction or things that would be of any significant concern. Okay. You are on the higher end of normal like lymphocytes a little bit, but overall, there's nothing that's significantly a big deal. The one thing that was a little bit of concern is your eosinophils were 5. It doesn't have a range on the lab, but when we see eosinophils like in the 5 range, we're always worried about allergies or parasites. Now, you did have that stool test. Like H. pylori infection is not going to raise the eosinophils. But do you have any environmental allergens or allergies?
I don't think so. There was one, I think, a little bit of parasite on the.
Yeah, I'll go over that. I think it was just a bacterial overgrowth. Okay, let's look at the panel again. All right, so this is your GI panel you had done.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just pathogen screens. They're doing a bacteriology, parasitology screen for certain pathogens there. And then this is just your normal bacterial flora. They're saying some of your healthy bacterial flora is low.
Yeah.
So a bit of dysbiosis. Okay. Same with these Bacteroides and Firmicutes. And then this is bacterial overgrowth. These aren't parasites.
So on page 1, there was a sign of Giardia, a little bit 1.34 E3.
Oh, no, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's abnormal, you would see it on this range. See, it's less than 5.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 5.0 or 1.34.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so just a little bit of dysbiosis here.
Okay.
And that's going to continue to improve as your GI tract improves.
Mm-hmm.
And with dysbiosis, there's a GI marker called beta-glucuronidase. It can sabotage how your body clears out certain hormones from your body, make it less efficient. You're just slightly elevated there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're already doing all these things to improve your gut function. I think it's just going to continue to improve as you stay consistent. Your gut immune system, a little bit weak. SIGA levels a little bit low, but nothing significant. It's low with, like, if you run these panels, like 80% of people have this. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm really concerned about this. So we have to really even consider if this range is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then they just did a bacterial sensitivity test to see which, like, if you want to take antibiotics and things, which you had to respond to, but I don't think you need to do that.
Got it.
Right. So that's what the GI panel shows.
Got it. Got it.
All right. Let me pull this up here. So phase 1 was to go through all these steps, which you're doing wonderfully. Okay. Mm-hmm. Phase 2 was to then introduce nutraceuticals one at a time for SIBO, which you've done as well, right? Have you done phase 2 yet?
No, we haven't.
Okay. So if
I was waiting for. Was I not supposed to wait for this session to happen before phase 2? I didn't have any instructions for. No, sorry. I thought we need to do phase 2 after.
Ellie, you're right. We're going to talk after phase 1 and then phase 2 to phase 2. So, okay. So anyways, so the other possibility was, like, if your gut wasn't functioning as well, so we can really start doing more nutritional support for your gut. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't know if we need to even do that. It's up to you. If this is just would be, I'll give you, like enterovite or short chain fatty acids. It'll help with some of your dysbiotic. All the things you have in a GI panel would dramatically would have some degree of further improvement if you went on this protocol. It's just like, how many supplements do you want to take, and do you want to support your gut? And so what's your gut feeling? Do you want to do more aggressive support for your gut, or do you want to just go with what you're
probably maybe part of it? I'm already taking ADEK. I like to try Entrovite to see how
that could be a very good one, because short chain fatty acids also have been shown to dramatically impact brain inflammation. And there's lots of animal studies that they're using it with MS models of animal research, and when they give short chain fatty acids digestively, it's calms down their MS inflammation. And a big part of bipolar pathophysiology is that inflammation in the brain that gets triggered really quickly, and then that can push you into your depressive states and so forth. Okay? So you can take the enterovite. There is something you can take for the dysbiosis, like the bad bacteria overgrowth. It's called GI Synergy. It's a packet. If you take like one packet a day, the enterovite, let's have you do that. So GI Synergy has like a black walnut and oregano and garlic extract, like really high concentrated stuff that we use when we're trying to get rid of microbes naturally. Okay. You can just take a packet of that for like 2 to 4 weeks. Just finish the bottle. And then I think that can be supportive. So let's just have you do the short chain fatty acids, which is butyrate, acetate, propionate. That's what's in there. 4 capsules twice a day with food as you're taking that packet would be a good idea. And then let's follow up next time and see if that's been helpful to you. Okay. I get some further improvements there. As far as your phase 3, more frontal lobe strategies and mitochondrial strategies, your blood flow, I wouldn't do anything different than what we're talking about right now. I would just say, in your down phases, really push yourself to activate those pathways when you're low. And then as far as mitochondrial optimization strategies and blood flow, the most important thing right now is to make sure that you sleep through the night, because it's a sign you're going into physiological stress response. Okay. And that's key. And then monitor TSA Hashimoto's. We can go into this a little bit deeper. I still think you have a lot more to gain in your good and bad phase. We don't want to do too many new strategies at once. And all the things you're already doing, like with supporting your gut function and optimizing your brain gut axis, or going to impact autoimmune pathways and pathophysiology, right? As your gut function improves, as your blood sugars get more stabilized. Those are fundamental mechanisms you have to get under control for underlying autoimmune responses as well. Okay. So there's also, when you look with any kind of chronic condition, once you're starting to get some change, you don't want to deviate from the track. You don't want to go off track. You want to stay on the same path. You just want to push it and find little subtle things that are off and keep going with it. You want to, do drastically anything new. So I wouldn't want to do anything drastically new. Okay. So, like in summary, what we'll do is we'll have you really focus on your meal before bedtime. Okay. So make sure you may have to have more than 2 walnuts. You may have to have maybe a handful of walnuts or something. You might need to really experiment with your dosage of butyrate. Ketones at nighttime. Okay. And then we got to get you to sleep through the night. If 10 out of the 14 days you're waking up at 3 o'clock, you're not optimizing your good days yet.
Got it. What's your definition of a good sleep? Does it depend on people? Because like 4 hours, when I'm waking up, I'm up and ready. As in like 3 a.m. I feel like I don't need any sleep, but in reality, I do prefer to get back to sleep.
Yeah, it's going to be different for you because you're in your mania phase. Like you can probably function with very little sleep and do things. But the fact you're waking up is a stress response. Okay. So yeah. Okay. In your bad days, you're like, sleep is not going to really be the only thing that impacts your energy levels. So it's not going to be a good window of what that is. Okay. We just definitely don't want you to wake up all night. So on your so-called good days, your function days, your mania days, you basically want to really, really focus on avoiding those waking up patterns and the stress responses at nighttime. On your depression days, you really want to focus on initiation, pushing yourself, getting some things done. Okay. And then everything else you're doing with your strategies, are important. When you do have depression days, you're going to need to experiment with these dosages more.
Will do.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
Okay. When do you feel would be a good time to follow up? Because you need time to really have these things work. 2 months, 3 months, what's a good time for you?
Maybe 2 or 3 months. So I can get back to Susan in a month to provide a little bit of update.
Okay, so somewhere
Where
between
I am.
3 months, when let's definitely communicate no farther than 3 months.
Yep.
But somewhere in that range.
Yep.
Okay, no questions for me?
No questions. I'm good.
Okay. Well, I think you're doing great. You're doing a fantastic job. And
Thank you very much.
thanks for documenting everything and keeping things on track. That's really, really helpful to make sure we're doing things. And as you can see, how important it is to track those patterns. So
yeah,
keep up the good work.
I do agree. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ali. Bye. So I just want to make some comments about all these cases. And when you look at bipolar issues, we use the word good or bad days, but really good days are really mania and bad days are depression. Not all parts of good days are severe mania and so forth. So, one of the things to take into account is just how he's functioning in those days. His mania days are not really bad. For some people, they're really grandiose and have significant dysfunctional patterns. And his depression states, even though when he gets into those bad days, what we call depression, or really which are depression days, you notice the depression is better. So overall, things are better. So one of the key things that's important about understanding working with bipolar patients is you have to have clear guidelines and goals. If you just went into working with a patient that's suffering from bipolar condition and you just saw them when they can't function on a good day or a bad day, you're not going to notice that they're getting better. It's so important to have those patterns documented, because even for himself, he could see, oh, wow, I'm 50% better with my patterns. Instead of being I'm having 2 weeks of highly functional states versus 3 weeks of not being able to function, and those things are a big improvement. Now, his initial concern, as you know, is GI issues. So as you can see, his brain function is improving, his brain gut axis is improving, and he's also working on his gut at the same time. We're supporting the whole brain gut axis together to make some nice changes. But the most important thing about this first follow-up, if you don't have enough experience working, or not a lot of experience working with patients that suffer from things like bipolar disorder, is how critical it is to have a strategy, a plan, follow-ups, a structure to make sure things are in line. And it's not just like a random follow-up and just a question like, hey, how you been? How are you doing? Without tracking things very well. So using the brain region localization form, metabolic assessment form, we can see things a lot better. We can see what's not changing is his initiation, parts of his prefrontal cortex. So we're having to activate those areas more. So that constant monitoring is really, really critical objectively. As much questionnaire forms and plans and updates and documentation you can have can be the difference between making the follow through and motivation and ability to follow through for the case, not only for the patient, but for yourself, workable or not. So anyways, just some thoughts.